Yes, yes, yes. Castworthy podcast. No video intro. Had some technical and difficulties going on, but yeah, it's first day of October. I'm EJ Stewart here with the VP,
What up?
man
What
of
up?
research,
What's
here
going
to
on,
deliver
man?
the goods. Big Steve is somewhere. Maybe he'll jump on at some point, pause. But here we are, man. How you got the clean shave there, brother?
Finally,
What is
man.
going on?
I'm out here looking like a person.
what instituted what inspired the shavery?
Nah, man. I know I'd be needing to cut. You know what I mean? But like, I can't cut my own hair. My wife cuts my hair. She got her own stuff happening, like as far as like medical issues. Sometimes she's not feeling great. Whatever. So I just try to get in where I fit in. So it'll be like, oh, I'm planning on doing it this weekend, and then maybe she doesn't feel good, so it don't happen. I'm gonna plan to do it next weekend, and then something comes up where we're doing something, so there's no time or what. And then those missed weekends turn into months, and then next thing you know, I look like I'd be normally looking or whatever, and then it's like, you know, finally it just happens or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. I could dig that, man. I mean, I don't grow facial hair as much as y'all do, so
yeah,
I unfortunately, but yeah, man, got the nice clean shave here, and we out here. It's first
yeah.
day of October. What's the weather like down there in Florida?
Today it's a little overcast, man. It's kind of cloudy out. It's been raining a little bit. And it's typical for this time of year for us. So it's kind of like coming into those last few weeks of like technical summer. You know what I mean? So we're getting those cloudy days. The weather is kind of cooling a little bit, even though it's still very warm or whatever. And then we're still getting those scattered rainstorms. I always like to tell people when they ask about the weather in Florida, it's either hot or raining. So and it's been a little bit of both.
Yeah, same thing up here. Well, actually today is a very beautiful day outside.
Yeah,
But it's been cool all week, kind of cloudy, as you
yeah,
saw in New York. Bunch of rain,
yeah. That
shutting the
storm
city
did some
down.
work up there.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it, man. You kind of wonder if New York City is gonna exist in years to come. You know,
Yeah.
like you talk about California, but that place and the infrastructure was built centuries ago,
Hmm.
and things haven't been redone. They haven't been. So what are they really sitting on?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
That that's the thing, man. Like, it seems like as our country is considered like part of the West, the Western world is supposed to be more modern and things like that. And we really don't modernize here. We just kind of, it's like a patchwork of things.
Hmm.
And then it's like we don't, something has to become like a disaster to actually fix it. But even you see, they passed that infrastructure law. I think it was last year or the year before
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure they're going to do a lot of work on it. I mean, it's a $1 trillion bill. I'm pretty sure a lot of infrastructure is going to get done, but nowhere near the levels of you know what needs to be done.
Right.
And they it's almost like we need to go back to like the 50s when they built the interstate highway system, and they just need to pass like a massive government spending bill that's just on public works, the infrastructure, rebuilding these airports, roads, bridges, and cities like New York to prevent them from flooding. And Miami, it just rains in Miami and it floods now.
Mm.
Houston, every other year we see Houston has a once in a 500-year flood every other year now.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there's a lot of work in this country that needs to be done, man, but we just don't have the will to do it.
And,
It's no way to run a country.
and I think too, like it's got to be some aspect of it where, like, oh, we don't want to shut this place down and lose money, but if in the long run things happen and it shuts down, it's going to be more catastrophic.
Right, right.
So
you know
that's kind of crazy. That's kind
yeah,
of crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking
It's
of
even like here, like I mean, you travel here like for the draft and stuff like that. And even though the airport in Orlando is not like one of the busiest in the United States or anything like that, but I mean, you have a
it
lot of
does
people who come here
a lot of
internationally,
travel. Yeah.
a lot of travel, and that airport is a shithole, you know, and so you would think that they would do something to modernize it to make it, you know, be competitive with some of these other like big time hubs around the globe, whether it's Singapore or Beijing and places like that, to try to get this place you know looking like it's part of the 21st century.
Right. Miami, same thing. You know,
Exactly. Man,
Miami,
that place
same
is
thing.
awful, awful.
It looks like the airport from the cocaine wars in the 80s.
Hmm. Yep.
Speaking of shutdown, man, what is going on with the United States government? The threat of shutdown has been temporarily avoided. Give us the
Hmm.
backstory on what it was, and it's just funny. The news made it a point to say, "Yeah, nothing in the bill speaks to Ukraine right now." They
Right.
made a
That's
point to
correct.
say that, but
So
give us the rundown.
So essentially, what happened here is that the government fiscal year runs. So a normal calendar year for everybody else is January 1st to December 31st. The government's calendar year is October 1st through September 30th, and they call it a fiscal year. And so the government has to pass all of their spending bills for each of the agencies throughout the U.S. government by September 30th in order for those various departments to be funded for the upcoming year. And on the House side, the House of Representatives side, they didn't really pass any of their appropriations bills to fund, the parts of the government for the 2024 fiscal year. And the government was at risk of shutting down because they've spent all year doing, the stuff that the people are demanding them to do, like investigating Hunter Biden, because that's of utmost importance right now of finding out what's happening with him or whatever. Um, so the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy basically came up with multiple bills that was going to fund the government, and every time they came up for votes, they were blocked and put down by his own Republican caucus. So he's being blocked by his own members. Um, Finally, they had a bill that was supposed to pass on Friday, and the Republicans again blocked their own bill from passing to fund the government. And then what essentially happened is yesterday, late Saturday on September 30th, they put a bill out on the floor that funded the government for about 45 days, give or take. It's going to basically fund the government until November 17th. And the Republicans again tried to block that bill, but Kevin McCarthy, the speaker, cut a deal with House Democrats to get the bill passed. Um, so you essentially had all of the Democrats except for one who voted yes for the bill. And then of the Republican side, 90 Republicans voted against it. So you had the Democrats basically in the majority. And that bill went over to the Senate. The Senate quickly passed it 88-9. And then Joe Biden signed it into law last night. So the government shutdown for right now is put on the back burner until November 17th. And then what's resulted from this now is that some Republicans, led by Florida Congressman Matt Gates, are talking about trying to oust the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. They're going to file what's called a motion to vacate the chair. Basically, like it's kind of like a vote of no confidence, but it's called the technical term for it here a motion to vacate the chair. And because they're pissed off that he cut a deal with Democrats to pass this bill because they want to shut the government down. Why do they want to shut the government down? Because they want to stop the investigations into Donald Trump. Is essentially why they want to do it. And then to the point that you made about Ukraine, the Republicans did take out the funding for Ukraine. So for right now, there's no funding to the Ukrainians by the U.S. government because there's no money appropriated for it. But apparently, Biden has said, and House Democrat leadership has said that Kevin McCarthy has promised to fund Ukraine. I'm not sure how he gets it done, And this may be part of the deal that he's cutting with Democrats, because at the end of the day, it's not just the majority who the majority elects a speaker, right? But it's normally when they put up the votes for speaker, the Democrats nominate their candidate, which they usually nominate their leader. In this case, is Hakeem Jeffries. And then the Republicans nominate their person, which is Kevin McCarthy. It might be somebody who's challenging him. And then the votes happen, and then whoever gets a majority of the House, which is 218 members, they become speaker. But Democrats, or just like Republicans, can vote for anybody.
Mhm.
So if Kevin McCarthy just has a majority of the Republicans while not the full caucus, it's not enough votes to get him the speakership. But if Democrats prop him up and say, we'll give you some votes to keep the speakership, but we want something in exchange. Now, in the past, Democrats haven't been savvy enough to do this kind of thing. So, we'll see what happens. We got new leadership. So we'll see if they cut that kind of deal. But it's going to be interesting, over the next, I would say, 2 months or so.
Who was the one Democrat that voted no?
The one that I'm not sure actually. In the stories that I've read, I haven't seen that person highlighted,
We
because
can
all of
assume.
the
We can
if I had
assume.
to if I had to guess, I would say it's probably one of the more conservative Democrats, and it's probably like a Democrat who comes from a district that Trump won. So maybe
Mm,
it's like, oh, well, it's a lot of Republicans in my district, and I barely won my seat, so I'm going to vote the way the Republicans voted, just so I can go home and sell it to try to keep my job. Basically, you usually
right.
see stuff like that happen in politics. That's why, like, even with the Republican infighting, a lot of the Republicans, especially the ones from New York, they're like pissed at people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and folks like that who are trying to shut the government down, because all of these guys come from districts that Biden won. And not only did Biden win those districts, after we just had redistricting because of the census and the new maps being drawn, those districts that already were Biden districts are even more so. And so now these people are like, yo, like, I barely won this seat. I won it in a surprise. I'm definitely not going to win it in 24. And it's going to make it even harder for me with you guys doing this bullshit or whatever. So, um, so yeah, it's
Not
it's
to
uh it's been
mention,
interesting, man.
not to mention, there's always something going on in New York. With the recent flooding.
Right,
Granted, things are back to normal right now, but it's always something going on. So
right,
you want to have a
and
functioning government in case
mhm. And that's also part of this bill too. Biden asked for
the emergency
um,
response.
emergency money for
Yeah.
disaster relief and things like that, and that money was added. That was something that the Democrats demanded in order to get their votes. They wanted the Ukraine money as well. They couldn't get McCarthy to budge on that. I guess some kind of agreement was made for something later, but they wanted the disaster money in there for sure, and they got that in there, which also was pissing off some of these House
Republicans.
Republicans, because that disaster money is going to places like New York, and they do this thing where it's like, oh, I'm from the Midwest, or I'm from Florida, I'm from Texas, whatever. Fuck New York or whatever. But anytime they have a hurricane down in Texas, or tornadoes in the Midwest, hurricanes in Florida, they come right up to Uncle Sugar, the government. Hey, we need money. And then they want the people from New York to vote yes to pass this shit to say, what I mean? And they always do, because you know, it's like it's almost like the Republicans govern in a way. It's like, fuck everybody else, and I can be this asshole because I don't have to be responsible for this shit, because somebody's gonna come behind me and clean it up. So we need to fund the government. Nah, fuck that. I'm a chaos agent. But somebody's gonna fix that. It's whatever. And I get to go home and say, oh, I fought against this stuff that you don't like. And yeah, I didn't stop it, but I was fighting against it. And then use that as a
Hmm.
platform to run for the next thing. And in Matt Gaetz's case, he's rumored to be thinking about running for governor here in Florida in 2026. So all of this stuff that he's doing is, I'm fighting Kevin McCarthy on this. I'm trying to get these investigations against Trump shut down. I'm the one who stopped the government funding bill for all these disastrous policies that we don't like, et cetera, et cetera. and this is why you should vote for me to be the next governor of Florida.
For the record, I'm not mad that the funding for Ukraine was not in there. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I get the humanitarian piece of it. I get that we've taken the position, as we always have had a position, despite our forefathers' advice, to be that world leader. But there's just so much that we need to do here, that won't get done anyway. But
Hmm.
yeah, just I get it. In this politics game, it's just nasty because lives are in the balance, and these people are just playing monopoly here,
Hmm.
essentially. So it's a nasty game. It's a very nasty game, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 45 days. What do you predict might happen?
I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to fund the government, but I think the government is going to shut down. And part of the reason why they picked 45 days specifically is, like I told you guys on the last pod, is that there are elections happening in Virginia this November. And so a lot of people who work in DC, who work for the federal government, live in the
Virginia.
DMV area in
Yep.
Virginia and in Maryland. But because the elections are happening in Virginia, these people are going to be impacted severely, and they don't want that to impact the elections, because even if you have a government shutdown, it's a national story. But even though it's national, it somehow always kind of feels like a DC story, because a lot of us, for the most part, don't interact with the federal government daily. We do, but we don't think that we do. We do in things like, air traffic control, and people who, make sure the water is safe to drink, and the people who are making sure nuclear power plants don't, melt down and shit like that. But a lot of us, we don't see that kind of stuff. It's happening in the background, almost like on autopilot for us. So we don't know it exists almost. Um, Whereas people who live in that DC area, as people who live in Maryland who are close to DC, or people who live in Virginia who are close to DC, when the government shuts down, they feel it, because these people aren't being paid, which means they're not eating out, they're not doing dry cleaning, they're not taking the kids to do stuff or whatever, and all those areas suffer. So they feel it more immediate in DC and the surrounding areas. And I think that's the reason that they did it, was just to help in those elections. But I think the government will shut down next month, because Kevin McCarthy is basically a speaker in name only. He has no control over the caucus. He gets no respect from them. And because he is not a real leader, and I'm not saying that because I'm a liberal biased Democrat. I'm saying he's not a real leader because he's not. His caucus has shown that they have no respect for him. They don't respect his leadership, his authority, etc. And he has basically bent over backwards to give them everything they want, just for them to provide votes for him to be speaker, so that way his name can go in history books. They'll hang his portrait in the Capitol, etc. But all of these things that the country needs aren't happening, because he's placating these people in order to keep their votes to remain speaker. And they know that, which is why they continuously threaten him with, if you don't do what we want, we're going to file these motions to vacate the chair, and you're going to lose your speakership. But Kevin McCarthy is not smart enough to understand, one, when he became speaker, I'm pretty sure you remember this, they had to vote 15 times in order for him to become speaker.
Mm,
The second longest vote, or speakership vote in history,
mm.
right? The last time it went past two votes was like in the early 1900s. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And 15 different ballots for him to become speaker. Nobody else wants the job because they don't want to have to deal with this bullshit. So when these people like Matt Gaetz keep saying, "I'm going to file this motion to vacate the chair," like, do it. You feeling froggy? Jump. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Because
Because
who's gonna
there's
get in
no,
there?
exactly. It's like nobody's stepping up like, "Yeah, I'll be speaker." Nobody want to do that shit because they don't want to deal with people like Matt Gaetz. So, step up, grow some fucking balls, and lead. Like, you're fucking third in line to the presidency, or second in line to the presidency. I'm sorry. Like, you're an important person in this fucking government. Like, we're supposed to be like the envy of the world, the shining city on the hill. Like, how the fuck do you think other countries look at us doing this bullshit all the
Oh,
time?
it's all a clown show. It's
Yeah.
all a clown show, and the fact that working Americans in DC are going to have to live, like you said, the way that they will, it's ridiculous. People are
Hmm.
literally, having to stockpile money. Obviously, companies and debtors are gonna understand and know what's going on, but the fact that as a working citizen, working class government, first world government, that we have these problems, it's the epitome of what's wrong with this government. Like you
Yeah,
said, people don't care about their other citizens elsewhere, because those people in the Midwest are living off the land, they're doing whatever they do, and it's crazy. That is
yeah.
crazy.
It,
It's
it
sad.
is very, and the saddest thing about it when the government does shut down, like I think it will after November 17th, is that members of Congress continue to get paid. That's the fucked up part about it, right? They furlough all these people. The members of Congress still get paid even though the government is shut down. But their staff who still got to go to the Capitol to work, they don't get paid. Their staff who still works at the legislative offices and in the states don't get paid. The people who have to show up to the cafeteria workers and the janitors and people like that, none of them are being paid, you know? And even though they always say like, oh, well, when they pass the bill, they always pass like the back funding to back pay those people. But people like the cafeteria workers, for example, AOC was making this point. Those people aren't federal employees; they're contractors, and they don't get back pay. Which means, what do they do? What do they tell their landlord? What do they? How do they make their car payment? Their kids' daycare, or a thousand other things that people have in their lives they need to pay for in order to live and survive. Um, is one of the reasons why I told my cousin. I have a cousin who works for the federal government. He works at the VA, and when he first got that job, I told him, "Hey, the first thing you need to do. I know you're gonna want to party, and it's your first job, making like some real money or whatever." I was like, forego all of that shit, and you need to save like 2 months of pay, like not 2 months that you use like for your savings, and like I was like 2 months for this is the money that is basically be my paycheck for 2 months in case the government shut down. And he was like, what you mean? And I had to talk to him about like, oh, the government shuts down, that you don't get paid, blah blah blah. And then but you still got to live, you still got to eat, still got to pay your rent, still got to pay your car, you got to pay your car insurance, whatever. You know what I mean? So you need to make sure you have that money set aside in order to sustain yourself. So that's what he did when he first started working there. The first two, and it happened during COVID. So luckily everything was shut down. So it wasn't like he can go out clubbing. So it was easy for him to save that money.
I
So
was
he
gonna
saved
say
like,
that the reality of saving that kind of money, and I just spoke to someone who makes a good amount of money. He's just like,
mhm,
yo, I'm on credit card time when that happens. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what what else can I do? And it's sick, and this system is truly broken, that the leaders in this country can not do their job but still get paid, and everyone else has to suffer.
yeah,
It it's a sad thing.
very.
But all right, moving on from that, let's go to some urban things. Uh, Tupac Shakur, man,
Oh,
was murdered. About what 90? What was it?
what, 96?
96, 95, 96.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh, in Vegas, and the alleged shooter at the time, if you ever watched any of the documentaries, 27 years ago, thank you, Chris. If you watch any of the documentaries, the shooter, who was actually fingered or pointed out as the trigger man, was subsequently killed himself, soon after. And man, the documentaries, the movies, the information out there behind the scenes about things that were speculated that were going on, it's pretty crazy, and it's pretty nasty when you get down to it.
Hmm.
But Keefe D, who was a rapper, affiliated rapper with a lot of, you think he's a Crip affiliated rapper. Um, went and did a lot of documentaries on Vlad TV and all of the places about the knowledge that he has had about Tupac's death.
Hmm.
Well, more recently, due to DNA evidence and all different kind of findings and different things, he has now been alleged to be someone behind the organization of the shooting and subsequent death of Tupac Shakur. And
Hmm.
when I tell you, I was watching the news, and they were talking about government shutdowns, then they were talking about weather, and then they were talking about something else. The news, the white, all white channel was like, oh no, you gotta talk about Tupac. Just it's crazy that this is surfacing now and it's coming up. And the other thing that people are saying and quietly not saying is that he's probably going to lead to some other people's arrests that may have been involved behind the scenes. So yeah, just a crazy turn of events. I wish Tupac personally was still around because I believe he would have been a major community leader and person in the black community if he, went on the trajectory that he originally set forth. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about it? I really don't have too much other than watch the space. But 27 years later, to now connect somebody to this murder is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, man. Um, I'm more in like watch this space mode, but the thing that was wild to me is like, you always hear them say like there's no statute of limitations on murder, but it really feels like there is. It seems like if they don't solve this case in the first however long, then it ain't gonna be solved. It goes into some black hole in the police department and is never thought about again. And every now and then, every couple years something would come up where you would hear something about you know some new lead in the Tupac case or whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, here we go again, you know and then next thing you know, boom, they've arrested somebody who, not sure if he was the trigger man or just, like you said, somebody who helped set it up or organize it or whatever. But to have an arrest almost 30 years later, it's like, wow, like I mean, obviously, his celebrity status likely helped that this investigation stayed open, but or not. I mean, obviously, it would stay open because there's no statute of limitations. But the fact that it was still being worked, I guess I should say, is
Hmm.
it's like, it's almost unbelievable, man. But you know, like you said, watch this space. We'll see what happens. But yeah.
The crazy part about it, for almost 30 years, Keefe D has self-admittedly he was the person that gave the actual shooter the gun.
Mm,
This guy has told on himself for years. So it's kind of like what inspired them to actually move on this. He's given himself up as a co-conspirator in so many ways.
hmm.
Um, and now he's 60 years old, and they arrested this dude. And I'm really curious to see if there is any connection to other people. Because for a long time, Puffy was not, not out of the question to be
Hmm.
involved in this stuff. And in the music business and just everything that was going on back then, it was just so nasty. Who
Yeah.
knows what we're gonna see when the pressure is really put on this guy because he's 60 years old.
Yeah.
So, it's one thing when he was 30, or, obviously almost, what, a little over 30, or 40, whatever that might have been. It's a major difference now that he's 60 on the back end of his life. And you
Hmm.
basically telling this guy, you're gonna die in jail.
Right.
You're gonna die in jail if you don't help us cooperate or let us know what's going on. But I mean, man, it was just, yeah, yeah, he's pretty much at this point lived a full life, like Chris said. Avoided the jail time, avoided the ridicule. It's gonna be crazy to see, man. It's gonna be really crazy to see, and it was a shock.
Yeah.
News stations were just like, "Yo, this is crazy," because Tupac, he's one of those iconic figures, man, in the music industry. You got your DMXs, you got all of these guys that probably wouldn't have reached the level of stardom that they did if Tupac was still alive.
Yeah.
So, he's up there with a lot of people. People don't give him credit, but it is.
Right.
It is what it
Not,
is.
you're right, man. It's just, sometimes it's wild to think about, like the way things go, like if something, that whole like butterfly effect thing, 'cause like you
Mhm.
said, a lot of guys probably had that space to shine because there was no Pop, there was no Big, and it let some of these dudes come up or whatever. I always talk to people about that in the political sense. Like when we talk about the 2000 election, I'm like, if Al Gore won, there's no Barack Obama,
Right,
because
right.
he's not giving that speech in 2004 that like basically put him on the map, that led to him, winning in the Senate and then running for president in '08 or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting to think about that, man.
Chris says put some respect on DMX name. Yeah, absolutely. But however, we forget DMX was in the game trying to knock on the door for years. And Tupac's death and Biggie's death vacated a lot of spaces for these guys. Jay-Z, you got to remember, he released Reasonable Doubt in 1996. It
Hmm.
didn't go platinum. People didn't buy it. He wasn't on your top 5 rappers list until Pac and Big were killed. And
Right.
people don't realize, Pac had a hold on this music industry. And till this day, people talk about him like he was a mythical griffin. The stories
Right.
that come out, everything about him, it was just the personality that he is. We'll never see, in my opinion, a more polarizing musical figure in our community than Pac. That was so controversial. When you're talking about politics, you're talking about just the trouble that he got into, the things that were going on. You're never gonna see a figure like that ever again on that
Hmm.
magnitude, and that's why 27 years later, his murder is still a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nah, and you're absolutely right, man. Because I mean, now like like these people existed back then, like the publicists and the make it right folks on your team. But it's like Pac just didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna
Right,
say what I feel.
right.
I'm gonna say it how I feel, and that's just it. And now like people kind of they craft their image like more carefully. I don't want to, I always come back to this or whatever, and I'm not trying to throw a shot at him because I don't want Steve to get upset wherever he is. But I always come back to the Jordan saying, Republicans buy sneakers too, or what, and it's like for Pac, just wasn't having that shit. I'm gonna say it how I feel, and then you just gotta feel however you feel after I say it. That's on you. You know, and
Mhm.
a lot of stars aren't like that now or whatever. I'm kind of reminded of, I posted a video in the chat, not a video, but a link to a video. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it was of Taylor Swift sitting down talking to her team, and also her mom and dad about when she came out against Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, as well as Donald Trump. And her dad is like, "You can't do this, da 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 da. It's not, And she's like, "I can't sit down. Like this is my country too. Like what the fuck? Like I can't keep watching this shit. And because she's a country singer, she's from Tennessee. Like the people who support this guy are the people who buy your music. You don't
Mhm.
want to be like the Dixie Chicks is essentially their argument. And she's like, fuck that. But you have a lot of people who will go in that lane of, I can't piss off my fans regardless of how I feel personally about whatever is happening in the country, and they remain silent on important issues. And it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, we don't know what Pac would have done had he been alive. Going back to his song Changes, where he said, we're not ready to see a black president. And, lo and behold, we finally get one. And you got guys like Jeezy that, made the song about my president being, but Pac, coming from that Black Panther, background, we just don't know the level of activism we may have received
Hmm.
had this guy been older and been, alive. And so to your point, he didn't give a shit about pissing people off. He was very, outspoken. And the community, I think, misses what he could have been. So
Right.
definitely interesting. 27 years later, you know, I pretty much believe, I predict that he will, be convicted because the evidence, they're saying they're already recommending sentencing for this guy. But I mean,
Damn.
he's told on himself in certain ways several times. So I mean, I'm pretty sure they have some good, strong connecting evidence.
Right.
So we'll watch that space.
It's like people forget that they have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, I mean, and this guy literally, said to the public, I supplied the shooter, which I mean, obviously, I don't know what took so long, basically,
Hmm.
at this point. Maybe that legal money ran out.
Maybe.
Right, man, for weeks and weeks and weeks, you were saying it's gonna be Dame time in Miami,
That
but
damn sure was.
it's actually Dame time in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that
Damian
one.
Lillard, a part of a three-team deal between the Phoenix Suns, Milwaukee Bucks, and the Portland Trailblazers, has now found himself next to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, who I know
We
that's
know.
Steve's guy. Whatever,
We know.
whatever, yeah, whatever. Uh, he's there in Milwaukee. Psh, I mean, Jesus, what are we getting here? What is going on? What do you
I
think?
think first on the trade itself. Well, actually, let me talk about the Miami aspect of it first, and then we'll go into uh what do we think. I said this in the chat, and Steve, got up on his shit about it. I was like, this shit almost felt personal to me. And what I mean by it is that Dame said he told him I want to be traded, and I want to be traded to Miami, and they went back and forth for a month or so, and nothing is happening.
And it,
And
and it, it almost seemed like they were just frivolous, frivolently. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but they were entertaining Miami, but they really didn't seem like they were really entertaining Miami. To your
right,
point, I
right.
think that is personal as well.
It seemed like they were just wasting time. And the
Hmm.
reason why I say that is that at the end of the day, what's been reported by the Miami beat reporters is that the Heat were offering them 3 to 4 players. Hero, the two rookies, which both were first round picks. They were trying to get Kyle Lowry in there, but they probably didn't want Lowry. So that's why I said 3 to 4 players and then 3 first round picks. And what they ended up getting was 2 players and 3 first round picks. So it seems like you got the same deal. Now Steve says they're getting Drew Holiday. You don't think that Drew Holiday is better than these rookies? Sure, he's better than these rookies. He's been six man of the year. He's a vet. He's a champion. All that kind of stuff like that. But they immediately put Drew on the trading block. I mean, they didn't want him. The same way it was reported they
Right,
didn't want Hero. They don't want Holiday, right?
right.
So I don't understand the trade, being that you had this trade on the table a month ago. You see what I'm saying? So it
A
almost
better
seems
trade.
like right. It almost seems to me like they, when I say personal, they said we want to trade Dame, and this is what we want. And Miami says we're not giving this to you. And because Miami didn't bend over for them, they said, well, you know what? You're not going to get him at all then because you wouldn't bend to our will. And then you essentially trade him somewhere else where you got the exact same trade.
Right.
And the trade that they traded with Milwaukee, the 3 first round picks they got are like pick swaps versus the picks that we were giving them were just straight up
Outright,
like giving them
outright
outright
picks.
picks.
Yeah.
And I've asked you guys before. I don't really understand the swaps thing, the way that you guys do, but I have to imagine a straight up pick is better than a swap.
Yeah, because a swap is literally just that. You're bartering your pick. You're not actually, you're getting a pick basically for a better position in the draft, but it's not like you're getting an additional pick to your picks. Had they traded with y'all, they would have been able to keep their first round picks and then acquire y'all picks. So, and Chris is saying it's not that they didn't want Drew Holiday. They're rebuilding and they just drafted a point guard. Drew's getting paid and doesn't want to be a part of another rebuild. But again, that's to VP's point.
Right.
Why make that trade with a Milwaukee when in Miami you're getting everything that you need? You're getting the young pieces, you're getting picks, you're getting a hero who is a two guard who can go with this young point guard that you drafted,
I was just
and
getting ready to say
you
that.
can literally have multiple draft picks. So I think it was definitely personal, and I told y'all this. I said this to you. I said Dame wasn't doing himself any favors. By coming out and saying you want to go to Miami, he had this idea in his mind that Portland had to do the right thing by him. They don't.
Mm,
And I mean,
right.
to this end, to your point, they literally made a trade. It wasn't the most optimal trade offer that they had, but they literally made the trade to show you we will do whatever we want to do just to kick you and spite you and just offload you. And not only that, Miami, while you can say Miami's one piece away from a championship, let's be real here, right? No, and this is no shade being the Knicks fan that I am. You guys were a playing team that excelled and did what you did, all off the back of Jimmy Butler, who was aging, who could be injured, next year. And y'all essentially were possibly going to gut your team to where you might not have been as good as you're going to be with a Dame coming in. But these guys in Portland decided, nah, damn that. We're going to send you to Milwaukee with one of the best players in the game that has a piece around. They didn't give up a lot for him. So Portland was willing to say, so much so, we don't want to acquiesce to you. We'll send you to Milwaukee. You might win a damn championship, but we don't care. That
Yeah.
that that's how spiteful these people were.
Right. And I don't disagree with everything you said. I disagree with this point, like the point that you make about the playing team. Obviously they were a playing team or whatever. But I think from the Heat's perspective, it's that yes, playing team, Jimmy Butler had to, become otherworldly in order to get us into that championship. But I think the Heat felt like literally we're one piece away, meaning, and what I mean is that we need another score because Tyler Hero was hurt, and that guy would have been giving you your, you know 15 to 20 something points a night, and that would be your other score that would allow Jimmy to not have to play at this insane level for 2 months of the playoffs or whatever. Because I've been saying for years, Bam is just too inconsistent. You know what I mean? And so having a guy like Dame and even Tyler Hero is somewhat inconsistent. So having a Dame Lillard there would have gave you that person who is just a consistent scorer, where it's not just we got to put it all on Jimmy and it's Jimmy or bust kind of situation, right? But to the point that you made earlier, when you were commenting on what Chris said in chat, and thanks, Chris, we appreciate you listening live and commenting. Um, um, I feel like Miami offered them a better deal. They just drafted a young one guard in Scoot. You will be acquiring Tyler Hero, who's a young two guard. You're also getting Hawkins Jr., who's a rookie first round pick. You can play him in either small forward or power forward. And then you're also getting the kid Jokic or Jokic, however you say his name, who we drafted last year, first round, who could play the three guard position. And I think he also can play two guard, but I think they would probably play him at three, since they would have Hero. And so you basically got a brand new young team, young core, plus three first round picks to continue building around that, either through the draft or via trades or whatever. And the fact that they didn't do that for a guy in Aiton, who, yeah, he's 7 feet. You can't teach 7 feet, but where's he been the last couple of years? He's not doing much in Phoenix. And an aging Drew Holiday, who you're already shopping, it seems to me like
It
great
it
trade
doesn't
for
it
Milwaukee, and
doesn't
it's
it
marginal for
doesn't make
Portland, in
sense.
my
It,
opinion.
it it did not make sense. And
No,
Chris is saying they tried to get him to Miami. I highly disagree. Just
I
the
disagree as well.
just the three first round picks outright alone is a better selling point than anything that they received at this point. It
Right.
makes zero sense for a team that has been marginal in the West year after year after year. They haven't been great since the early 90s, the mid 90s. Why wouldn't you take the three first round picks and the youth to maximize your spending? You have three first round picks. Now you could dangle these picks to maybe get another superstar. You could do a lot of things that you could have wheeled and dealed now to make this team relevant. Now they pretty much just didn't want to do what the hell Dame wanted them to do. And they
Right. And
literally they're not ashamed to say it.
right. And one other point on that, real quick. I want to get off the Miami stuff and just talk about Milwaukee for a second here. But you're also getting you getting the youth and the picks, but even though they didn't want Tyler Hero, if you had kept Tyler, let's say you couldn't trade him, right, and you had to keep him if they make the trade with Miami, you're getting a guy who's been on a roster that's gone to the finals. He's gone to the finals twice. He's coming from an organization that knows how to win. They know how to contend, and you're bringing that in your locker room with this young core that you got that can help these guys transition from college to the NBA in order to get these young guys ready. You know what I mean? Because that's also part of the problem with some of these teams. Is like, yo, you get a guy from college who seems like he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the person you build your franchise around. And some of these guys can't transition into the pros, whether it's because of the money, the fame, the girls, whatever it is. They're just not as good as you thought or whatever. But you would have a guy in a guy like a Hero that could help these dudes make that transition. And they were like, nah, we're gonna take Aiton and a guy who fights with his coach and Drew Holiday, a guy we don't even want, you know, and some swaps. That shit makes
Yeah,
no sense. But in terms of
yeah,
Milwaukee though, man, I think for Milwaukee, this is a good trade for them because all the stuff that Giannis doesn't do well, he doesn't shoot the ball from the outside good. They basically cover up each other's deficiencies. Dame doesn't really have an inside game. Giannis don't have an outside game. And now you're gonna have two guys who basically are the opposite of each other. And that's it's almost like a I know it's gonna sound blasphemous when I say it, but it's almost like a Kobe
yeah.
Shaq kind of situation,
Oh my gosh, I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there. Yeah, I mean, how can you not like this trade? For Milwaukee.
hmm
They went out. They heard Giannis. They heard him complaining. They heard
And
him.
shout out to Giannis for flexing his muscles on Milwaukee on this.
Yeah, they heard his threats. They heard his threats. They went out and they got what he needed. They got a scorer, a guy who's gonna match up in the East, who's gonna create havoc. This is exactly what both of these guys have been looking for, and you got to kind of pick them to be atop the East right now.
Oh yeah,
Philly's in disarray. Philly's in disarray. We don't know what they're gonna do with Joel Embiid and the people around him. Boston is Boston. This automatically puts them over Boston, in my
I agree.
opinion, very easily.
I agree. I
Uh,
agree.
because Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, that is a destruction waiting to happen. To me, it seems like one of those
I
guys are
agree.
gonna have to go at some point. Who else? Miami, you guys. Jimmy Butler can't do it all. We again player and team wasn't even supposed to be there. Who else we got to top the East that I'm missing?
Cavs, Knicks.
Cavs, I would say before the Knicks, obviously. Cavs got that young squad, but they, missed the mark here. The Knicks are the Knicks. Like I said, and until we get rid of Tom Thibodeau, there's nothing we're gonna do that's gonna do anything or mean anything, in my opinion.
Right.
Um, but yeah, why do so many people hate Boston's combo? Because they continue to not get it done. They
Right.
continue to fall short when it matters. They continue to just not play better basketball. And again, these two guys haven't figured it out in the backcourt. They don't know whose team it is when it counts. And again, it's not hate, it's just the fact that these guys are who they are. And when it counts, they don't win. They just don't
Right.
win.
And I
So,
I would add on to that. I would add on to that to for Chris's question is that what's happening in Boston reminds me of the KD Westbrook Thunder teams, where you essentially have two guys who are the same guy, right? Even though KD is 6'11 and Russ is a guard, but they're both like the shooting guard essentially. And they decided to put Russ at the one, and it just didn't work out because Russ is not a one. He's like, yo, I'm the two, I'm the scorer, I'm the guy you're gonna run the offense through. And KD's like, no, 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 I'm the guy you're gonna run the offense through. And that same thing is happening um with Boston with Tatum and Jalen Brown. And on
and
top of that, you
and they
got
also
in
gave
Jalen
up Marcus
Brown,
Smart. They also gave
right?
up Marcus Smart. They don't have a surrounding core.
hmm
After you go after Jalen Brown, after Tatum, who else on Boston do you fear in the East? If
Right.
those two guys are out, what do they have?
Exactly. And not even that if it's those two guys are out. In my opinion, especially given that. the heat has come down to heat in Boston for so many years. I felt, almost feels like a like an NFL divisional game, where you're kind of used to this opponent. You know what I mean? And really, as a defender, you only really gotta not let Tatum get cooking. Because it's like Tatum gets cooking and they feed off of it. Because you don't really gotta fear Brown. You got Brown, a guy you're paying $300 million who can't dribble to his left. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just one of those guys got to go. And I think I said this to you guys on a pod during the when the offseason first happened, free agents first happened. No, Al Horford, definitely not. He's too long in the tooth.
You need to
So
retire. He's stealing money.
exactly, but I said this to you guys. I think that Jalen Brown wanted to leave Boston, but because of the way that the NBA money works, when you get voted to the All NBA team, that All NBA selection added like a $60 million kicker onto what he was eligible for in terms of a max deal.
Yeah,
And
he was gonna get paid there more than anywhere else.
right, and at the end of the day, money talks, bullshit runs a marathon. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yep.
So he was locked in at that point. His
The-
only hope now would be, if he still wants to get out, is to force a trade, because those two guys, they don't work. They don't, the same way that I just talked about Dame and Giannis complementing each other. Tatum and Jalen Brown, they don't complement each other in that way because they're the same player.
Literally the same player. Literally, and you're leading a team. Is one thing if you have two players that complement each other, like you said, Kobe, Shaq, Hakeem, whoever else. These guys do the same thing, and because you're invested in these guys so much so, when you start to get down to your second, third, fourth options, it's Al Horford. It's
Hmm.
it's it's the guy Grant. I mean, you literally don't have the depth. And
Yep.
then when you look at the East, like I said, Philly's in disarray. Embiid is not happy. We don't know what is going to happen. So this trade to Milwaukee for Dame Dollars, you pretty much got to put them in the favorite. The only thing that can stop
Mm,
these guys, you got to. The only thing that can
so
really stop these guys right now is injury. Who is going to beat them? Not Miami.
okay, so listen, I don't disagree with you, right? But I still will say, for now, we haven't played any basketball. The Heat are the kings of the East as of last
Stop it.
year.
Stop it.
So look,
Stop
they're the
it.
defending champs. Like I get it. Like we looking at roster construction, saying this is who we think the favorites are, whatever. And I don't disagree with you with Milwaukee being the favorites, but until you beat the man, you're not the man. You know what I'm saying?
True. Very true.
Like remember
You,
when
you also you also
remember when they stripped
you got to
Muhammad
be
Ali?
realistic though.
Remember when they stripped Muhammad
Yeah.
Ali and he's like, "Yo, how you call yourself the champ? You ain't beat the champ." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you got to be realistic though. Y'all problem is, Jimmy Butler ain't getting any younger, and y'all
Nope.
essentially y'all got better for the long haul, but you didn't get better for the right now. So you're
No,
gonna be
you're
looking.
right, and I
I
think
mean,
in
unless
the
Hero is healthy, which has been a huge if.
so I think for the long term, right, it's very likely that Milwaukee comes out of the East, you know,
Oh,
but it's very
correct.
likely they're the one seed going into the playoffs,
Absolutely.
just like they were last year. But or I think they were 2 seed actually. I think Philly was the one, if I remember correctly.
You listen,
But
listen.
but regardless of that,
Giannis had a bad because he was carrying these motherfuckers for the entire season. He now no longer has to do that. He now can rest 20 games and
no,
let Dame just do what he does.
I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying, EJ. The only point that I'm making is that Kansas City is a defending Super Bowl champions. You know what I mean? So we say, yo, that, like at this point, it's you got to go through them. Now, maybe they don't make the playoffs. I doubt it, but when that time comes, it comes or whatever. But for right
I
now,
hear
I
you.
say,
Yeah.
the
Miami,
the
Miami
reigning
is
champs should should
Miami is
should
king of the hill. Miami's king of the
should
hill.
yeah, with
But
an
it's
asterisk.
it's it's a new season. And listen, you got to at this point, we gotta say right now looks like there's gonna be a new sheriff in town,
I
and it's
agree.
gonna
I
be
agree with that.
Milwaukee.
I
No
agree with
one
that.
in the East right now has the stability outside of maybe the Cavs to do anything. And the problem there with the Cavs, you got a Donovan Mitchell who never really wanted to be there either. Let's remember, Donovan Mitchell did not want to be in Cleveland. He wanted to
Yeah.
go to New York.
Now, what I'll also tell you, you're going to disagree with this, but I truly
Mhm.
believe it. When you start talking about those teams in the East, if Julius Randle could wake up one day and realize like he's a star, you guys could be, because I mean Brunson is. I had no clue this was y'all was getting this out of Brunson when that trade happened, or not. It wasn't trade. It was free agency. When y'all picked up Brunson in free agency, it's like, oh, they signed Brunson. He's one of the big names out there. Okay, cool. Then you see him playing. It's like, yo, this kid is special. You know what I mean? And if Julius Randle could be the guy who we think he's supposed to be, along with the cast, I think New York could be in the mix or whatever. But it's the Knicks.
It's the Knicks. We're gonna find a way to fuck it up. Not to mention, and I think this is the problem with majority of the New York sports. We do not have the coaching that we need. Tom Thibodeau is a perennial all-time assistant. He is one of those coaches that got a job that doesn't deserve it. He doesn't know how to coach this team. He doesn't know. He's just horrible. And him winning Coach of the Year, and I said it before, over the guy in Atlanta that year was one of the worst things that could happen to us because it extended his leash to
Hmm.
for him to be our coach. And I think he's the real problem because I think we had the talent. Julius Randle is a very good basketball player. He can be a star. He can be very unstoppable if he's playing the right game. We got a lot of young core. We got a lot of good guys. But again, these guys just don't receive the right coaching. And that's always been a problem for me. But we'll see about the NBA. It's football season. You know how I feel about the NBA when it's football season. Basically, to hell with. But we had to talk about the Dame trade. Really briefly, being that we're on the Colorado bandwagon, some of us, Colorado just lost to USC last night, and I thought that was a game they could have won.
Hmm.
Late in the game, horrible offensive clock management, and that would have been a major win for them had they won. But we got to see Caleb Williams on display.
Hmm.
Shador, turned it up late. And like Dion said, man, you better get them now because if they get some pieces right, they're gonna do some things. They're definitely gonna do
Yeah,
some
and
things.
and and we see this all the time in programs that are rebuilding. It's like they look like they're on the cusp, and then they just because it's the first year, right? Like it's not like you can rebuild the whole roster. Obviously, he let a lot of guys walk,
Yeah,
and so once they start getting some more kids in there, and especially Dion said it himself with that transfer portal, it makes college football different. So you may have some kids who say, man, I was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, but I went to Georgia. I can't get on the field.
yeah,
Let me go play for Prime. You know
yep,
what I mean? Or
yep,
or same thing at like an Alabama or FSU or whatever. Because that's what happens to a lot of these kids. It's like you shine in high school and you go to the big program, and it's like, yeah, everybody here's a 5-star recruit. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Quentin
so
Quentin Williams was the same thing. Quentin Williams only played like one season as a starter at Alabama,
mhm,
and this guy, is a first round pick, all pro, but couldn't get on the field.
right,
So, to that point, these guys are gonna go to Boulder. They're gonna figure it out, and they're gonna get things working. Plus, they don't have Travis Hunter still, but
right.
not
Or
to
you
be.
look at like to that same point, right? We always talk about that 2001 Hurricanes team, right?
Sheesh.
You had Willis McGahee and Clinton Portis, both first round picks, you know, in the NFL, who were playing special teams because they couldn't get on the field because of Frank Gore. So
Yeah, yeah. How about that team? And then Kellen Winslow
he was also on
the
special teams. He
backup
couldn't get on
tight
the
end?
field.
He was the
Back up
backup
to
tight
Jeremy
end.
Shockey.
Jesus Christ. That team was something else. That team was something else. Yeah,
so
I always
so
they killed y'all when they gave y'all a death penalty, but yet Penn State still has a program.
yeah,
I don't even understand how Penn State even still has a football program.
yeah.
I
but
just don't
but
get it. But
but with
I
that,
guess taking money is worse than pedophilia
yeah. But
to the
you know,
NCAA.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But with Colorado though, man, I think once they have a legit full season of recruiting and portal, etc. They're going to be able to make some moves next year. I think they'll be in the
They're already getting 5-star kids to
hmm
commit now. So I mean, it's a wrap. And like I
yeah,
told someone, the biggest thing and the best thing that Prime has done for all of these universities, he's showing you that hey, you can maintain academia, you can maintain your reputation as a reputable university, but here's how you utilize your sports program to build up your college.
right,
We're gonna bring in these stars. We're gonna bring this attention. We're gonna bring talent here. People are gonna want to come. Their stadiums have been sold out. This
yep,
was a 1 in 11 team. It's now the college darling for everyone.
yep,
This is how you do it.
yep,
And Primus gave you the blueprint. And I mean, Miami to some degree kind of showed you that when you had the stars coming to Miami. The only problem was, again, Miami as a university didn't value that program. So they
right.
didn't invest into that. You had the coach that wasn't into that until y'all got what's his name that got y'all the championships. Dude that went to
Snellenberger.
no, the guy that went
Oh,
to
you're not talking about the
Cowboys.
80s, about the 90s. Oh,
Yeah,
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson embraced that. But again, he couldn't get along with the AD. So
hmm
in Colorado, Dion has the perfect situation where the university, the AD, and everybody's saying, "You be you. We're gonna capitalize. Tell us what you need."
Right. Because at the end of the day, like for the university, I mean, obviously the AD wants to win games and they wanna compete for championships, all that kind of stuff. But
I mean,
that
they're
stuff is
already
not a
up.
reality, right?
They're
But that's
already
that's
up.
not a reality for some teams, right? But
Right.
for them, they're looking at what you said, right? The people, the board of trustees and the regents and all those people like that who behind the money, they're looking at stadium's been full every Saturday. Yo, merch sales are up 800%. You know what I mean? The money's coming in. You know what I mean? Even shit, we done lost 2 games. We ain't compete for no championship this year. But you know what we are doing? We are moving a lot of merch. You
We're gonna get
understand?
into a bowl. We're gonna get into a bowl game.
Exactly.
We went from a one-win team to now being on everybody's tongue around the nation. You
hmm
got kids now that
They're
never
flying in and do
thought
the shows. ESPN flew in to do first take. That show that Joy Taylor's
Fox.
on, Speak. They
Yep.
flew in to do their show from Colorado. Yeah,
Yep.
come on, man.
And not to mention, you got kids now that were considering other places, and universities have to understand your college life and your sports sells students like it
Yeah,
sells student life. So now
yeah,
you got a whole bunch of new applicants. I mean, the prime effect is real, man. It's
yeah.
incredible.
I mean,
It's
it's well
incredible.
documented that after a school wins a championship, enrollments go
Enrollment
up.
goes up. It goes
Yeah.
up.
So, and this
It
school
goes
hasn't
up.
even won a championship. It's all just hype at this point. So, yeah, more power
Yeah,
to them, man.
absolutely. Get into some NFL news really quickly. Chandler Jones, man, he is suffering from what I can see. He's suffering from some mental health issues. He
Mm,
needs some serious treatment. And I was telling people, man, I don't know what went on with that family, but all three of those brothers are super talented. The oldest one was a college athlete. Then you got Chandler, and then you got John Jones, who struggled with his own cocaine addiction and
mhm,
all of that other kind of stuff. And now Chandler, is seemingly unraveling. He's having mental health breakdowns. He's on, live. I mean, the fire department came in and basically committed him. He was recently arrested. Antonio Brown is going out there to check on him reportedly. But,
mhm.
you can see that this guy needs some serious mental health treatment, man. And just hope he gets it.
Yeah,
Just hope he gets it.
yeah, it's
You know.
tough, man. It's and the thing too about sports, especially, because I'm pretty sure it's like this in most jobs. I would probably say with the exception of maybe like the military or whatever. But like, when you're going through something like this, they release a statement saying all the right things, but they release them and they're gonna move on. You know what
They
I mean?
released
And
him.
and this is like the time that you need people around you.
The
You know what I'm
most,
saying? Like the
right?
most, you're in the most vulnerable position at this point or whatever. And so that's one of the things like where the business side of sports, um, it kind of sucks that in this guy's hour of need, basically, they're going to essentially turn their back on him. And then, whatever, if they've released them, that means that whatever insurance he has through the league is no longer there, which means, he got to come out of pocket. I don't know how much money he's made over his career, if he got the money to pay for
He
these kind of
should.
services
He
and things
should.
like that. So it just sucks, man. But like to your point, man, I hope that he gets whatever help that he needs and can get right, man.
Yeah, because I saw the live with him recently. He was just talking about Aaron Hernandez and how he felt that Aaron Hernandez didn't kill himself, and he just seemingly just went off the rails, man. And while two things can be true,
Hmm.
because it did seem like when Aaron Hernandez's case was getting better for itself, he took himself out, which was very, we talk I talk conspiracy theories all the time.
Hmm.
It just didn't seem right. But Chandler Jones was in there, just having a live and just off the rails, man. So hopefully that brother gets some help. I hope John steps in, or whoever steps in. I don't know
Yeah,
who has to help him, but I hope he gets some help soon. Yep.
agreed. Agreed.
But going to the NFL, Chris pointed out that the Jaguars and the Falcons are currently playing.
Hmm.
And he said Desmond Ritter is trash. I think on this podcast we tried to explain that to somebody who was just like, "Oh, Desmond Ritter." You know, somebody on this podcast was talking about how Desmond Ritter was like a good quarterback. I think his name was Steve.
that
'Cause
that was his name.
I don't know. But week 4 of week 18, starting off on Thursday, the Lions gave the Packers a good old fashioned NFC North ass whooping. And right now we got the Falcons playing the Jaguars in London. Currently, Falcons are down 7-20. Um, let's get into it, man. Let's run into these games, I guess.
Yeah, on the Lions Packers, man. Like it's as a guy who's a Dolphins fan and have watched us kind of be ass like for a long time. Like I'm pretty. I know how those fans feel. I feel like they've probably been ass a lot longer than we were. But it has to feel good to have a team that is even though it's still they still haven't figured it out yet, especially on the defensive side. But for them to be winning, they be putting up points. They were scoring 30 points like almost regularly last season, and they did again on Thursday night. And I don't know if Golf is the guy. I would say he's kind of like Stafford. He's like, he's all right.
He's a guy
He's
right now.
serviceable. Yeah, yeah, he's the guy right now. I don't know if he's the guy long term, but they seem to have figured, especially with Dan Campbell, they seem to have figured it out at least. With the coach, and they got enough to be competitive, especially in that division. And as we've seen with the Giants, with the Joe Flacco Ravens, sometimes you just need to be good enough to get into the tournament, and then maybe catch a spark, and next thing you know, you're in the dance. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, and
but
them
I'm
and
happy for those guys, man.
them beating Green Bay is a big statement because
Yeah,
Chicago is where they are, and
yeah,
in Minnesota, you don't know what you're gonna get from Minnesota.
right,
We don't know. On paper, that team should be the leaders of that division, but we don't know what we're gonna get with Minnesota. So
right.
this win by Detroit, is major for them in the NFC North. And at this point, they just got to stay the course and get some wins, man. Get some wins.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you got today. You got the Rams going into Indy. Who you got on that one?
Rams and Indy. I think I'm gonna have to go with Rams.
I'm gonna go with the Gardner Minshew led Colts, and here's why. They for years now, they just couldn't find somebody to lead on the offensive side of the ball. The fact that they were able to go into Baltimore, led by Gardner Minshew, to beat the Ravens, I'm gonna have to take them at home with the Rams, who are seemingly there but not there, trying to come back, trying to find an identity. I'm gonna have to go with the Colts. I'm gonna have to go with the
Yeah.
Colts.
And I mean
Uh,
the Rams, I mean they kind of I, I don't want to I don't want to say they screwed themselves because they won a Super Bowl, right? But like what they had to give up to
they
win that
sold their
Super Bowl,
soul. They sold their
it put
soul.
yeah, it puts them in this position now to where they can't be that competitive because they essentially gave up everything to acquire the pieces. To I'm pretty sure the fans are happy. We want to chip. We got that. I always make the point of, especially to Cowboys fans who are always bitching or what. It's like, yo, some people live an entire lifetime and never see their team win a championship. You guys saw your team win three. Like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? But
Right.
for the Rams, those fans probably feel like, yo, we won it, so whatever, fuck you guys. But it probably sucks too to go from, you look at teams in the past who've been those kind of almost perennial teams. The Ben Roethlisberger Steelers won two and were always competitive. The Brady Patriots, multiple, always were competitive. The Mahomes Chiefs, always competitive. You know what I mean? And then now this team, even the Ravens, they always were competitive or what but it's like these guys went from sugar to shit.
Right.
They won it and then now they just fell off the map.
They sold their soul, man. They
Yeah.
sold their soul. I was just gonna get to this game. The Ravens are going into Cleveland, and apparently Deshaun Watson is out.
Is that breaking? I hadn't even heard that.
I haven't heard that either. Chris, who's watching live, shout out to Chris. He's watching live. He's telling us that Deshaun Watson is out. Maybe his massage was a little too rough this week. I don't know what happened.
Oh yeah, he's out. Shoulder injury. I'm looking at it right
That
here.
yeah, his massage was obviously too rough this week.
David and
So
Njoku was playing though. I'm surprised about that. But
yeah,
now
he
that
was
Deshaun
burned,
Watson's out, I
suffered
don't know.
some burns. Who the
Yeah,
hell
I
is
don't know.
their backup in Cleveland right now?
The backup.
I don't
Let's
even know who
click
their
on it
backup.
here. Deshaun Watson is inactive for Sunday's game against the Ravens with a right shoulder injury. He threw briefly on the
Yeah,
field Sunday during pregame, and Browns officials made the decision to not let him play.
wow.
Rookie Dorian Thompson Robinson will get the start.
I
Hmm,
have no idea who that is.
no clue.
Uh,
He's a rookie.
this this
He's a
Browns
rookie
defense.
out of UCLA, fifth round pick.
Yep, don't know him. Um,
Black kid too.
this yeah, this Browns defense is legit. I
Yeah.
would have taken them to win this game today had Deshaun Watson not went so hard in the massage parlor last night. So with that said, I'm gonna have to go with the Ravens in a low scoring game. I will say 17 to about 7, if that.
Yeah.
The
I'm gonna
Browns don't
go.
look
I'm
like
gonna
the
go.
Jets out
So
there.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens too on this one, man. And yo, I don't know if you had a chance to read the thing I posted about Nick Chubb, man. Shout out to him. Um, they basically said, when they went in to repair his knee, they went in to repair his MCL and
Mhm.
something else. And then when they got in there, they discovered the ACL was jacked up too. So now he has to have a second surgery in a couple of months to repair the ACL. I'm like, damn, So
Yeah, Nick Chubb has always been a freak athlete since high school. One could argue that maybe he did a little bit too much to his body too early, like as
mhm.
far as lifting and taking himself, to the next level. Um, I don't see how he comes back in the near future after this. But
Oh, we got some breaking news from Chris.
Drew Holiday traded to the Celtics. Jesus Christ,
Wow. That's a good trade for them, especially you
it's
were
a
just
good
talking
trade.
about they got rid of Marcus Smart.
Yeah, depending on what was given in this trade,
I'm bringing
that
it up
that
right now.
changes things. That changes things. You got a defensive guard that can lead your offense. Man up on guys from positions 1 to 3. Pretty damn good trade. It gives them some identity. I like it. I like it. It makes them competitive.
Let's see. I'm trying to pull something up here, but it just happened, so I'm not even seeing posts that got um details. So I don't.
Yeah.
This is from Legion of Hoops. I don't really trust them, but they're saying that Blazers get Robert Williams, Brogdon, and 2 first-round picks. Celtics get Drew Holiday. I don't know. I need to see it from somewhere. That's a lot for Drew. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot. That is a lot of core right there. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
watch that space.
for sure.
Um, Vikings are going into Carolina today. Andy Dalton led Carolina Panthers, by the way.
Hmm.
I think this game will be close. I think the Vikings should win. However, the Panthers got a pretty good veteran team. Um, you got the guy, what was his name, man, that was on the Vikings for years. Can't think of him. Adam Thielen.
Yep.
Will be looking to get some get right, probably with his old team here. I don't know who to call on this one. I would say I'll go with the Vikings.
Yeah, this one's tough, man. Because the Vikings. I mean, we kept saying last year, like this team looks like one of the worst 9-0 teams I've ever seen. And then they finally started proving it late in the season, and now this season they're picking up right where they left off from. But I think I'm still gonna go with the Vikings. But I don't feel comfortable with it, even with it being Carolina.
We don't know what to do. We don't know what to
Yeah,
do. The Cincinnati Bengals are going into Tennessee to play the Titans. And this week is really ass in the NFL right now, as far as if you're betting, because Joe Burrow is out here one leg. We don't know what we're gonna get here. Derrick Henry hasn't had a game yet. He
yeah.
hasn't had a good game yet. Uh, you want to say Tennessee being at home? I mean, your head's got to go with the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bengals. I mean, better team, better quarterback. Although Burrow don't look good out there. He looks like he can barely move. And only time will tell. But I still believe that it was and is a mistake for them to have him out there. They probably should have shut him down for a little bit and let him get right with whatever's happening with that calf.
Yeah. Hey, we paid you money. We need
Yeah.
your ass out there. So
Hmm.
yeah. Chris got the Bengals by 7. I think that's not a bad pick at all. Let's go Buccaneers going into New Orleans. This is going to be an interesting one because I believe Jameis Winston is getting the start, and he's been the NFC South killer when he started.
Yeah.
So Jameis can throw the ball, and you got Baker Mayfield, in Tampa, another week under his belt, played pretty tough against the Eagles. I don't know how to call this one either. My head saying the Bucks, but I'm not sure. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I'm thinking the Bucks as well, but uh, yeah, I'm not sure. You know what? Speaking of Jamie Winston, I'm surprised that actually I'm not surprised. It's you guys, but I would think
That
that
we didn't get him.
after
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers went down, the Jets would have got on the phone and tried to acquire Jameis.
Listen, I don't know what Joe Douglas was doing at all. I don't know what they're doing at all. The day Aaron Rodgers went down, the day after he went down, a backup should have been in the building the very next day. I don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing. I don't even want to talk about those guys, but we're gonna have to. But we both got the Bucks on this one.
Yeah.
Although we think Jameis is famous Jameis, we never know.
Hmm.
You guys, the 3-0 Miami Dolphins
Whew,
going into Orchard Park
whew.
to play the Buffalo Bills.
Game of the week.
Ooh, game of the week.
I heard some people
What?
saying the NFL should have, even though they don't usually flex this early, they were like, man, they should have flexed this from the prime time.
Yeah, they say they don't flex until after week 4, I think.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll see. What do you I mean, I know you're picking your Dolphins, but tell us about how you feel about this game.
Man, this game is going to be the true test, right? And we all know in sports, the narrative plays a big thing, right? It's big because the media comes out and they frame things a certain way. So you know, like you look at quarterbacks, right? Tua is injury prone because he's been injured the last 3 years, right? But Joe Burrow is not injury prone, even though he's also been injured the last 3 years. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's just one of those media narrative things, and so people say, "Oh, this Miami offense is scary," da da da. But Tua's injury prone, and they seem to not be able to put it together when they play the good teams. Okay, boom, we beat the Chargers, who everybody had in the playoffs. They were in the playoffs last
except
year. People
except
think
for
they're
me,
in the playoffs this year,
except for me, except for
right?
me.
But then the Chargers go 0-2, and people are like, "Oh, I mean, they beat the Chargers. Chargers not that good." We beat the Patriots. They're ass right now, so there's nothing to see here. But they got a legendary coach, so you kind of get a little bit of points for that, right? And
Hmm.
the defense is pretty good too, even though the offense is ass.
Right.
Then you beat the Broncos, who were
Seven
ass
burger.
last year. People like, oh, they got Sean Payton now. It's about to be different, da da da. They beat the brakes off of them, and it's like, oh, well, that team's ass too. So then the narrative becomes, yeah, this offense is explosive, but they haven't played anybody. You know what I'm saying? And so this game here, to my mind, is the true test of the season. And if we can go out here and get a win, which I think we likely will, because we played Buffalo tough, beat them last year by 1 point. They beat us in the second game by 3, and then they beat us in the playoffs by 3 with our third string rookie quarterback starting. You know, and so I think that it's going to be a competitive game. Obviously, I got us winning, but a win here, I think, would say more than even 4-0 says, because it's going to say, okay, this team is for real. Like they played these
They
other
beat
teams and
they,
won.
they
They beat
beat
the
they
brakes of
beat
the
the division.
Broncos.
They beat the
Right,
division bully. Now they're 2-0 in the division.
right.
So they're
Not
atop
just
the
2-0 in the
AFC.
division, that would be 4-0 in the conference. Which
Yeah,
if some kind of shit happens later in the season when you start talking about tiebreakers, because all four of our
absolutely,
games have been in the AFC so far.
absolutely sets the tone. Major game for you
Mhm.
guys. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. Just cause I really don't give a shit who wins. If both could lose, I would be fine with that. But I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. The Broncos going into the Bears. Another shit bowl game here.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go with the Broncos just because
me
they got
too.
beat up really bad last week. So I think Sean Payton, and fuck Sean Payton, by the way. This guy talking shit about other coaches,
Hmm.
talking shit about Russell Wilson. And I think people forget, man, this guy was Bounty Gate. You know what I mean? Sean Payton,
Yep, him and Vilma.
Bounty Gate. So he was a piece of shit. I mean, I don't know that Vilma was in it so much, other than the fact that he was a player. I love Jonathan Vilma. I think,
No, I do. I love him
the
too, but I
Jets,
mean, he took a suspension for that though.
obviously, yeah, true. Obviously, you love him from the U, but the
Right.
Jets got rid of him. I thought it was the dumbest thing we could have done. But Sean Payton, we forget this guy was Bounty Gate. You know what I mean? So to me, again, the fact that he's even still coaching and has an opportunity to coach, the fact that he was out there on broadcasts and stuff, it's the hypocrisy. It's just nasty. The
Yeah,
hypocrisy. You were
it
paying
is,
guys
man.
incentives to take out other guys.
And
It's
and
nasty.
and and we talk about this all the time, and Steve kind of brushes it off, whether he's being serious or just trying to play devil's advocate just to have a different point of view. But me and you talk a lot about the racial component when it comes to some players and coaches. And you see a guy like that who had this bounty gate thing, and now he's in the NFL again. You see a guy like a Gruden who had all this racial shit tied to him, and not while he's not in the NFL now, I don't think it would be hard for him to get another job in the future in the NFL or even college if he wanted it. And then you see, black coaches of color, whether they're black, Hispanic, etc., who all it takes for them is to just have one losing season and they can't ever work again. Where you see these white coaches who get hired over and over and over again and they do nothing but lose. In Sean Payton's case, he wasn't a loser, but he also had Drew Brees, and you have to start wondering, is Peyton like Belichick, where his success is tied to Brady, the same way Sean Payton's success is tied to Drew Brees, because he seemed not be able to do anything after Drew Brees retired, and even guys like Cliff Kingsbury, after he got let go from Arizona, there was talks out there that teams were reaching out to his people, but he was like he's taking a year off from the NFL, and it's like reaching out to him for what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's crazy to me that a coach who's a person of color can't ever get a second chance. I mean, who? I mean, we've had only a handful of black coaches who've gotten second
Eric
chances.
Eric Bieniemy, a
Right?
successful
Can't get a first
offensive
chance.
coordinator, can't get a first chance. You got Tom Middleton, who's on the Jet staff, the tight end coach, who I believe is actually the best coach on our staff. When
Hmm.
Robert Saleh had COVID last year, he won us a game by being the coach, in my opinion. This guy's
Hmm.
coached the Senior Bowl. He's been a long-term assistant. He's never going to get a chance. He's going to retire a tight ends coach. The only way he will
Hmm.
get a chance right now is if Robert Saleh got fired and they promoted him, but he's never going to get a chance. And here you go with these guys. Matt Rule, comes from Baylor, shitty job in the NFL, but now he's
Hmm.
at Nebraska where they're getting trampled. They're getting
Yep.
trampled. They just got destroyed last night at home.
Yep.
So, when it's all white, it's all right, obviously.
Yep.
But we both got the Broncos. Let's get through this. Commanders at Eagles. We're gonna take the
The
Eagles
Eagles. Yep.
in an ugly game. Nothing to see there.
I'm
Steelers going into Houston. We're gonna go with Steelers.
going Steelers. Yep.
Raiders, no Jimmy
No Jimmy G.
Garoppolo going into LA. I'm gonna take the Chargers.
Yep. I agree.
Cardinals are going into San Fran. Nothing to see there.
Yep.
Although Josh Dobbs beat the Cowboys. But
Yeah.
again, if
Yeah.
if the 49ers win this, it's divisional. They'll then have the one up on the Cowboys, who then lost to the Cardinals. So
That's
this
probably
all
why they didn't have it. That's probably why they didn't have Dobbs jersey in the team store. Like, yo, you fucking up, man. But like, Caleb Williams, what the fuck are you doing?
we trying to tank for Caleb, brother.
You know
What
what
are
I
you doing?
mean?
Hey, Josh said, yo, I'm out there. He said Michael Parsons, he was talking all that shit.
Hmm.
Okay, I got something for that ass.
Yeah.
So the 49ers win this, that's gonna be a big statement game for the NFC as well when it
Yep.
comes down to it. So we're gonna take the Niners.
Yep.
Patriots going
Niners.
into Dallas.
I got Dallas.
Patriots offense is putrid. Micah Parsons should have a field day today. Gotta go with Dallas.
But I mean, hey,
I'm
the
gonna say
defense though, the Patriots defense is still pretty good. Like, say what you want about the hood, the dude still coaches defense good, you know. And that kid Judon is a beast, you know. He
I'll
don't get
say
as
this.
much shine. Micah Parsons is like, it's almost like Micah Parsons is a black hole, you know, because Judon his star don't really get to blaze like that because Michael Parsons exists. But that dude Judon that dude is nasty, yo.
I'll say this. The Patriots defense is good, but watching the all 22 film with versus the Jets, and we just needed to score.
Hmm.
Zach Wilson killed us. We had open guys play after play after play. Listen, I'm gonna tell you like this: if Dak doesn't win this game, Dallas has a problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If Dallas don't win this game, Dallas got a problem.
Oh yeah. I
So
definitely agree with that. Cosign.
yeah, Sunday night game. Kansas City Chiefs going into the Jets.
Yeah. Not looking
Kansas
good,
City,
homie. Yeah.
Kansas City. I mean, I think Zach Wilson is gonna play. I don't know. I don't know. Just throw the whole shit away. I'm gonna go with Kansas City here. My heart wants to
Yeah.
root for my team, but ain't happening.
I think it's KC as well. And you know, like we said earlier, man, like I can't unless Joe Douglas has been on the phone with agents and it just hasn't leaked, you know, which that don't seem to be the case in what happens in NFL rumors or whatever. I can't believe that they haven't even like been working somebody out, let
Well,
alone
we
has
got
signed
we got
somebody.
Trevor Simeon now. We got Trevor Simeon now.
I mean, like a real somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean the problem is the free agent market is slim pickings. And I said last year when Jacoby Brissett went to Washington, I was like, that is your guy. Jacoby Brissett is a guy who could come in, be a backup, but he could start. He's, not young, but he's not super old. And he's one of those guys that as they got older, he's figured it out. He looked good in Cleveland,
Hmm.
riding the ship. I was like, that was the guy to go get. They bring in Boyle, and it's like you had no plan. You had no plan for if Aaron Rodgers goes down. And
Yeah.
not only 30 minutes into the game, he goes down. At that point in time, he should have been on the phone. I don't care if it's Colt McCoy. I don't care if it's Trevor Simeon. Because if we had any other quarterback last week, we would have beat the Patriots. And
Yeah.
we needed that game. And I've said this before. I don't think Robert Saleh is a coach. And that's our problem in New York. We keep getting these perennial coordinators that get these head coaching jobs, but they're not head coaches. We haven't
Yeah.
had a good head coach since Bill Parcells. Even Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan did what he did for us. It was a
Nah,
good
Kaepernick
two.
stuff.
It was a good two runs, a good two AFC championship runs. But this guy didn't even know who was on offense half the time. So I
Yeah.
mean, we if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm trying to get Bill Cowher out the booth. I'm trying to do something. But they're definitely on a hot seat. I don't think they'll get fired this year. And I think they're banking on Aaron Rodgers coming back. My thing is, you don't know that this guy's gonna either one be able to play, or two, he might switch up and not even with
Yeah.
us next year. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
I think the whole like Rogers coming back from this injury like early, like that shit just seems like a pipe dream, like I get it that he's saying that they whatever technique they use on him is some kind of new technique that allows you to heal faster, but
right.
I mean it's just something we haven't seen before, and
And he's
and
40.
right. It's one
He's
thing
gonna
to
be
heal
40.
fast when you're 26, but it's different when you're 40.
Colin Kaepernick is an absolute no.
Yeah, it's
Thing
not
about
happening.
Kaepernick, man, and we wanted him to be great. But when he had that workout, Stephen A. Smith talked about it. When the NFL said, "Hey, come work out with us here," he wanted to do it at the high school. And then let's just be real. Even when he took the knee, he wasn't the starter at that point.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting the job, but it is what it is. Monday
Yeah.
night game, you got Geno Smith returning to MetLife to play the Giants. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't know.
gonna I'm gonna go Seahawks there, but it can go either way.
It can go either way. I mean, they're gonna be at home. It's gonna be Monday night. I don't know what the weather's gonna look like. If it stays at what it is now, it's gonna be pretty nice. I'm gonna say Gino. Gino's played in New York, so that locker room, that feel isn't foreign to him.
Hmm.
That pressure is not foreign to him. So I think I'm about to go with the Seahawks as well. I think you and I and Chris are in agreement with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But that rounds out week 4, man. That rounds out week 4. Really
Yep.
quickly, to wrap us up, man. Have you had any new binges? Have you seen anything new that you want to
I
report on?
I did. I watched the movie that Steve talked about last week with Michael Pena,
Michael Pena.
Million Miles Away.
Mm-hmm.
Movie it was a really good movie, man. It was
Mm.
really really good. And I'm gonna say this, it's gonna sound like I'm shitting on you, I promise I'm not. But I wish that when they did the Flaming Hot movie, they
Hmm.
took it in a direction like this, where it's telling the story without that all that like comedy trying to surround it. You know what I mean? Um, um, but the movie it was really well done. I liked it a lot. Them talking about his story, how his family were migrants. They were basically they worked on like picking fruit or whatever, and he was a good student, but he was transferring from school to school because his parents had to go wherever the work was. And then he had a teacher, this lady named Miss Young, who basically goes to the parents and like, yo, like he's a good kid, but like his education gonna be fucked up if you guys keep moving him like that. And they were like, yo, we got to go where the work's at. We trying to get our house back down in Mexico. And then finally, the dad goes to work one day, and the people didn't want to pay him for his full day, taking advantage of a migrant, you know, and that's when they decide, fuck it, let's just stay put or whatever. And they go stay at one place. He goes back to school, and the next, he becomes an engineer, applies to the program multiple times or whatever, finally gets in and stuff. So it was a really good movie. I liked it a lot, man. I liked it a lot.
And it sounds like an inspirational flick.
Yeah, it is.
I,
And
I,
and
might, I
and
might
Michael
have to sit down
Pena,
and watch it.
yeah, and the thing for him too is like I like when you see a character like that who in everything I've seen him in, it's always been like comedic kind of roles. And this is the
Hmm.
first like serious role that I've seen him in, and I thought he did a good job. It was because you kind of went in with like, I don't know, I mean, this guy's usually he's usually the comic relief, and then now he's in this role where it's serious, and he did well, man. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, dope. Definitely dope. I'm gonna have to sit and watch it. I'm kind of opposite of y'all sometimes. When y'all recommend stuff, it's kind of like it takes me a while to get to it. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to watch it. I haven't been watching anything new. Just watching the Netflix stuff. I haven't seen anything new that I could think of. Watching my Star Wars, Ahsoka stuff. Yeah, I haven't really seen anything new that I can think of.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah.
And one thing I
Man,
liked about it too, they play. like how it's based on a true story, so you don't know like what parts are the actual truth or whatever. But you kind of can see it coming from a mile away. They did the thing where he shows up to work. He's an engineer there. They think he's a janitor, and so the lady he goes, "Hey, excuse me." The lady say, "Hey, the bathroom on 4 don't got no toilet paper or whatever." And he's like, you know. So and then it ends up like working out in his favor because the lady keeps giving him the keys to like the whole building, and he needed to get some shit done. And he realizes I got the keys to the whole building, so he just goes in this one office and just starts working or whatever. His boss come in, like, what the hell are you doing in here? And he's like, how'd you get in here? He's like, I actually got the keys to the whole building or whatever. The lady at the front desk thinks I'm a janitor, and I found this problem or whatever. And the boss is like, how the fuck did nobody else find this or whatever? And then he ends up becoming like the guy, you know. So
I gotta watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into that. I've been watching. I stopped kind of watching the Wheel of Time because that shit is just
I haven't even started, man. I'm
yeah,
nervous.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Season
nervous.
one was much better. But yeah, I'm not with it. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Gonna be a new series coming out called Found on NBC.
Okay.
Mark Paul Gosselaar's in it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna be interesting. We'll see.
You like
But
a drama kind of
outside of
joint?
that, man, yeah, it's basically this black lady, she's like a profiler who helps return missing children, but they've
Okay.
given us a lot of the plot already in the previews. So, I don't know where they're gonna go with it. But Mark Paul Gosselaar, man, he can act, man. He can act. He's shown his range as an adult actor, and he's a star of this show. And just from the clips, man, he's acting his ass off. So we'll see.
Gotcha.
We'll
Okay.
de- we'll definitely see. But yeah, man. I mean, a good day of potting. We didn't have Steve today, but we had Chris as the third member. We appreciate you, Chris, my good frat brother there for hanging with us and
And I got that on my list, Chris. A Shuka. Definitely got it on the
Ahsoka.
list.
Yeah, that's what
Ahsoka.
I've been watching. I've been watching that. It's in the Star Wars family. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching it. And it's been pretty good. Rosario Dawson,
Yeah.
she really adopted that character. She really got into that character. And it's a pretty good series, and they're leading up to some films. I think Disney right now is gonna run very hard with Star Wars because Marvel is really really on a decline. I've been telling y'all this. I've been
Yeah.
telling y'all this
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Marvel has been diving into this bag where they want to be diverse and they want to be woke, and that's great. But you're sacrificing a lot of the storylines that made it what it is. And you can create a lane, what I mean, create a lane, but to twist the characters around and do what they've been doing, and they've been doing it in their comic books. Like I said, when they made Jane Thor. So Jane is Thor for all of 6 months, and now she's stronger than Thor, who was born a god in wars for centuries. And it's just like, and I really don't think they have great direction of what they want to do. And so I think Disney is kind of pushing the Star Wars stuff more consistently because George Lucas don't miss, and his
Yeah.
content don't miss. So yeah, Ahsoka is a pretty good series. The season finale is coming on this Tuesday, so I'm gonna be watching that. But
Okay.
yeah,
Is it
man,
30 minutes
definitely.
or an hour? Ahsoka.
It's an hour. It's over an hour
Okay.
type of show.
All right.
It's over an hour type show. But yeah, you gotta kind of. I mean, there are different videos out there, YouTube videos out there that can kind of explain, what's going on up until her show. Because if you didn't watch the animated series of the Clone Wars, you might not know too much about her. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I know who the character is, but I didn't watch the Clone Wars.
yeah, 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 yeah. Chris, yeah, Chris. There was a Lady Thor, and that is Jane Foster, and they wrote about her, but that was a new thing that came out about 3 to 4 or 5 years ago. And Marvel just one day they had an issue where the Punisher was just black out of nowhere. It was just they just doing a lot of things, man. So I don't know what they're gonna be doing with Marvel, but it looks like Disney wants to give all the chips to Lucas and Star Wars. So we'll see. But
Yeah,
yeah, man. Again, we thank you guys for hanging with us, man. Catch us on all our podcast platforms. Almost anywhere you can find podcasts. We didn't have our leader and main host today, but hopefully we'll get back with him next week. VP, I'm gonna let you lead us out of here, and I'm gonna run to the bathroom as soon as you're done.
I, pretty sure the audience appreciated that, man. Hey, like EJ said, man, you guys can catch this podcast on all podcasting platforms by searching at Castworthy. Um, like we always say, man, make that phone call, send that text message, reach out to your people, let them know you're thinking about them. I'm pretty sure they'll appreciate it and you'll feel good about it too. As always, man, thank you to anybody who listened live. We definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday morning. Shout out to Chris who was here listening live, commenting, engaging with us. We definitely appreciate you taking that time and rocking with us too, brother. And for the folks who listen once the episode posts, we guys appreciate you taking that time out of your day as well. You can also follow us on any of our social media by searching at Castworthy. On Instagram, it's at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave us a like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it. And with that being said, man, we will see you guys on the next episode of the Castworthy podcast. Until then, we're out. We love you. Peace.